Hey everyone, welcome to another $1,000 strap search. I've got my $1,000 in singles here and I'm about to show you what I found. But before I do, let's talk about this week's tip. Now, I tend to buy a lot of stuff off of eBay. I do a little bit of selling every once in a while, but for the most part, I am a buyer. I'm always hunting down what I consider deals. I probably bid on thousands of dollars worth of stuff every week, and I'm lucky if I get one item. So, yeah, just because I do a lot of bidding doesn't mean I get a lot of stuff. One of these days, I should actually try to keep track of how much I actually bid on and get outbid on, because it's just amazing the number of things that are going to be in my watch list at any given time. So I would encourage you to do the same. I would definitely encourage you guys to go through your watch list. Make sure to keep that full, because you never know what's going to pop up, and you never know when you're actually going to be able to snipe that particular thing at a good price. I mean, who knows? You could be on break at work and get a notification that an item is ending in 15 minutes, and nobody happened to bid on it because it's an unusual time of day. So yeah, it's most certainly worth giving it a shot to see what you can potentially score. Use that watch list. That's how you come up with stuff for really good prices. All right, so what do I have this week? Well, this week I have, let's see, where is it? Here it is. Actually, before we do this week, let's knock out what I found. Here are my finds. This is what I found in my $1,000 search. Okay, starting off with a Where's George? Where's George note, that's a stamp on there. Stamping a note Where's George does not increase the value. It simply means you can track that note and see where it's been. It's a really cool program, but once again, no additional value. If you ever see anybody trying to sell these, they're con men. Let's see, here's another Where's George. Different stamp, different symbols on there, so that's going to be cool to search. Here is, you guys know how I collect trinaries. Well, people who don't want to search that long for trinaries will go with a quadrinary, a note that has only 4 different digits. And those con men will call a note with 4 different digits that start 0, 1, 2, 3, a true quadrinary. Yeah, I have to tilt my head sideways and squint really hard to come up with all the garbage that these people claim are worth money. I happen to notice this one. I don't know how often I don't notice them, because it's not something you would notice, because it's worthless. But I found it, and I figured I'd show you that, yes, even I find true quadranaries, and this will go back in circulation. Actually, this will probably end up going into a worthless video. Let's see. What do we got here? Here's an alternator, 01, 02, 03, 05. If that was 04, that would have been really cool. That would have been a step ladder, 01, 02, 03, 04. But it's not, so it's just an alternator. It's one off. You know what one off means? It was almost, so that means it's almost worth money. Why would you pay for one that's almost there? If you wanted to pay for the one before that, yeah, but why would you pay for the one next to it? You missed it, you know? Imagine having a collection of one-offs. Would that look cool? Sure, but how much would you have spent on worthless money? All right, this is a note that most likely sat on a bar, folded in half, because if you look, you can see the ghost image of the black seal, and if you look on this side, you can see the ghost image of the green seal. People will scream, oh, that's an error. And no, you can see the hard fold right in the middle. And all that is literally this note being folded in half and probably sitting in spilt alcohol, allowing the transfer of ink. So no, this is not an error. This has green ink on it. The problem is that it's transparent. You can see through. So odds are that's a marker. And if you look, it does go through. And because you can see green ink right there going through, that tells you that's a water-based marker. And if it's a water-based marker, that's the wrong color ink, or wrong type of ink, so that's not an error. There's another marking over here. So yeah, someone who doesn't know will go, oh, that's an ink smear. No, that's not an ink smear. That's a marker. Don't fall for it. The giveaway, like I said, is seeing a portion of that bleed through, because true ink smears do not bleed through. Now to my trinaries, 2s, 3s, and 8s. Here's 3s, 4s, and 8s. And look at how dark that 3 is. Not an error. That's just a sign that that particular wheel has to be changed. That's all. Not an error. Here is quads, quad 3s. I'll save quads, also trying to match pairs. No additional value on quads. There's quad 6s and quad 8s, quad 9s, some stars. 2017A star note. Always check to see if they're filled. 2017A, 2017, 2017, 2017. And then some older notes. 2003A, 2003A, 2003, 1995. Checking to see. No, it is not plate 295. 1988A, not a web note. 1985, another 1985. And I got an oldest note is from 1977A. And what's in the sleeve? This is, it's kind of neat. It's the only way I would ever save 4 pairs. I've got 66447700. Is that worth anything? I don't know. I don't think so. Would I ever buy one of these? No. And if I wouldn't buy it, then I guess it's not really worth that much. But then again, I'm not truly into fancy serial numbers. However, the odds of finding a note like this is actually significantly rare. You're talking about a pair here, and there's only 10 ways to have a pair here. There's only 10 ways to have a pair here, only 10 ways here, and only 10 ways here. Which means 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 is 1,000, times 10 is 10,000. That actually makes this just as rare as a radar or just as rare as a repeater. So in theory, it should be in the $10 to $20 range. Is it? I don't know. You're never going to see me buy one of these, but I found it in circulation, so I pulled it, and that's good enough for my collection. All right, so what did I pull out this week? Well, let's see what we got here. I've got this right here. This is from the Jeffersonville, Indiana First National Bank. This is national currency. This particular one happens to be from the series of 1902. Now, Paper Money of the United States is going to list 3 different charter periods, but the truth of the matter is that there's a lot more series than just 3. In what they call the first charter period, you have the original set, and then you have the series of 1875. In the second charter period, you've got brownbacks, and you've got plainbacks and datebacks, and in the third charter period, you've got plainbacks, datebacks, large size, small size. I mean, there's so many different ways that it all breaks down. So we're simply just going to call this one from the series of 1902. Some of the things you'll notice about this particular note, it has multiple serial numbers. And what are all these numbers about? Well, this one here, the 956, that's the charter number of this particular bank. The way this worked is the Treasury would send people to the bank to find out if the bank was solvent, and if the bank had enough money to cover all its funds, the bank was allowed to put money on deposit in the form of bonds or gold coin or whatever the case is. And then the federal government would put money out using those finances as the backing. So this note states that the First National Bank of Jeffersonville will pay to the bearer on demand $20. So this bill is backed by this particular bank in Jeffersonville, Indiana. Not backed by the federal government, backed by that individual bank. However, the United States of America says that that bank is good. So take that for what it's worth. Anyway, if a bank was soluble, they would be issued a charter number. So there is how you get the charter number. Now, as far as the actual serial numbers, the serial number here, okay, this one does have it the same, so that means it's a later period. Sometimes you will have 2 different serial numbers here, and what that indicates is this serial number down here is from the number of this bank. how many bills were pushed at that particular time, and this number was the overall number. With this one being a later period, this is simply the number from this bank. Now, the charter number, like I was talking about before, is interesting because they put that in so many different locations. They just embed it in part of the bill itself. So you've got it all around here, all these different parts. And if we look at the back, do they have it on the back of these? On a lot of the older notes, I say older as I'm holding a 1902, a lot of the older notes, like the brownbacks and stuff, incorporated the charter number in the back. This one does not. Very cool image on there. You can see on the back of all notes, you can always see all the damage. So it's always a good idea to check the backs as well as the fronts. And this one was graded a 20 by PMG. Now, because it was graded a 20, the front always looks good. You always want to check the back. But on the back of the note itself, it will list if there are any problems. And this one does say minor rust. So if we look at this one, you can see right here, it does have minor rust on there. A little bit of rust here as well. So it has been noted. This would not be a clean note, so not necessarily be worth the full value of a 20. You use that as a negotiating point because the grading company calls it a 20. So you see those little marks, okay, if a 20 is worth whatever, maybe you ask a little bit less for it. What is this note worth, though? That is the question. So let's grab the book. I'm pulling out the Don Kelly National Banknotes book. Now, for the record, this book is old. They have not reprinted this book. It is a very informative book as far as seeing all the different charter numbers. You can see here, Don Kelly 2008. So these prices are 15 years old in this book, but it does give you an idea because you are looking at these and you're seeing in comparison what other notes are worth, or at least were worth at the time. This particular note, like I said, here is from Indiana. So we're going to look up Jeffersonville, Indiana. So let's flip through here. Iowa, Indiana. And we're looking for Jeffersonburg, right? Or Jeffersonville. There it is, 956. And it's on the bottom, so we got to go back here to the top. Try to squeeze it all in. There we go. Right here. And my note, just fell on the floor, happens to be the $20 plain back. So let me fold this over and see if I can't find this on here. Okay, so here we're looking, and here's a 1902 date back, 1902 plain back. They made $5 notes. There were 4 $5 notes per sheet. There's the serial numbers. And 18 years ago, they were $250 in a grade 20. Then they had 3 10s and a 20 on the next sheet. So there was only 4 notes per sheet. 3 of those notes were 10s, 1 was a 20. There's the serial numbers available. And they're calling those in a grade 20, $250. So, considering this book is 18 years old, it's from, that would put this note 18 years ago worth about $250. Chances are it's gone up a smidge, so paying $250 for this note today, even with the comments, that would most certainly be a fair price. Once again, using guidebooks is a great way to determine value. Where do you start? If I pull a random note, is this worth $10? Is this worth $100? Is this worth $1,000? Well, now we've seen a price in a guidebook, so now we can figure this note to be in the $200 to $400 range without a problem. That's a realistic estimate because of using the guidebooks. We don't have to take the exact price, but at least we have room to go. We've got somewhere to go with that. All right, that's what I've got for you guys this week. If you learned anything new, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading all your comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.